Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend. I'm Jason Godbey, and today on the program, we're going to be talking about some of the films that happened this summer of 2024. To help me do that, we got two of my favorite film watchers, Mr. Eric McClanahan and Mr. Bill Hammon. Welcome, guys.
Hey, nice to be here.
Good to be back, Jay.
It's good to see you guys. The dream team is back. We got three 40-something white guys talking about movies, just what the internet needs. Uh, so it was a summer, guys. Uh, we got some movies to talk about, but it was describe. Let's just do a general commentary about this summer.
I'll go. Honestly, it's been pretty weak. Like, I think maybe three of the major tentpole releases did anything of merit at the box office or with critics. Um, you had several movies like Borderlands and the Crow reboot that literally embargoed reviews until the day of release, and then their Rotten Tomato scores are 20 and 10 respectively. It like I was hoping after the last couple of years where we had Oppenheimer win Best Picture as a summer release and Everything Everywhere winning it as a spring release, that maybe we had finally fixed the problem of everything being backloaded into award season. But this year, maybe like Civil War and Dune Part 2 will compete from the earlier part of the year. I think everything is going to get crammed into October, November, December, and we're just going to be trying to catch our breath and play catch up and pray that the entire ceremony isn't reduced to Gladiator 2 and Wicked.
I'd have to agree with Bill there. I just don't think that the silver screen can compete with the summer sun. And we're all taking this time to enjoy ourselves, get outdoors, see friends, travel, and the theater has not been enticing enough. I think when the weather shifts, we'll get better things to occupy our time, and we're going to get that again, that award season fodder. But the summer was by pretty disappointing.
But there were a few rays of light, right? Eric, what do you got for us? What's the first item up for bid here?
It's called The 430 Movie from Kevin Smith, written and directed by Jersey's Golden Boy. This film does not take place within the View Askew universe. You're not going to see Jay and Silent Bob. You're not going to see, well, you are going to see the Quick Stop, which is kind of cool. Well, basically, it's young Kevin Smith growing up in New Jersey, going to the local theater and buying a ticket to see a movie that is age appropriate, and then sneaking in to see the movie he actually intends to see. The film is shot at the Atlantic Highlands Theater, which is the theater he went to as a child, and he now owns it, and now it's his Smod Castle, and he shot the film there. It is loaded with cameos. The stars in this thing are out of control. Everyone's in this movie, and but the draw is the three young stars. It's a trio of friends, three young boys who are journeying into manhood. They're sophomores, juniors in high school. Summer's about over, and the lead character, we'll call him Kevin Smith, calls the girl that he had a earlier flirtation with and says, "Hey, why don't you meet me at the movies?" And to his surprise, she says yes. And I will say, his character very smooth. Like it was a great call. He did it well. I was like, I would have said yes. The movie's fantastic. The movies within the movie are a delight. I always love movies within movies. Like put a movie in a movie, and I'll pay the ticket for admission. I love to see those. I love to see the production value goes into it. Very much a Flash Gordon type thing that they're watching at one point. Ken Jeong is the tyrannical theater manager who tries to thwart the boys' plans. And my favorite appearance is Sam Richardson, who's an actor I cannot get enough of. He elevates every project he's in. He plays a character named Major Murder, which is very much a Sergeant Slaughter, like larger than life wrestling personality. And they do the Mallrats thing where they run into him outside of his persona. They do the Mallrats Stan Lee thing, and they do it again in this film, and it's affecting. Like there are parts of the film where you find yourself feeling. but otherwise it's a straight up comedy, which is a risky move, but it pays off, and especially in the hands of Kevin Smith.
By the way, I love the expression "journey into manhood," which sounds like one of those films that was like in the back room of your local video store. It sounds like a title of that. But yeah, Kevin Smith. The last thing of his, I attempted to watch Clerks 3 and couldn't make it all the way through. Unfortunately, I like Kevin Smith. I like a lot of his films, but so I'm interested to see this one because it sounds like an '80s movie.
Yeah, it's I watched it with a friend. He said it gave him major Superbad vibes. It's set in 1986, and what's great about the movie is that Kevin Smith can't lean on his toy box. He can't lean on his revolving cast of characters that he's developed through all these years. He has to write a genuine story. He has to present a human aspect, and that's why if you're not a fan of his work, you're going to love this movie. And if you are a fan of his work, you're going to love this movie because he really it's more soul bearing than a lot of his other work.
Whether you like his films or not, you can never argue that Kevin Smith isn't sincere. If you think about his entire career, like especially the View Askew universe, his entire filmography, apart from like Red State and Tusk, are coming of age movies for emotionally stunted adults. So to actually transfer this to people of the correct age group sounds very intriguing.
Right, and their journey into manhood.
It's like you mentioned the back room at the video store. To me, it sounds more like one of those clinical videos you watch in your sex education class.
Or an indie darling at Sundance 2025. We'll see.
Which often ended up in the back room of the video store. Anyway, Bill, what do you got for us?
Probably the biggest hit of the summer, Inside Out 2. Now, this is a complicated movie for me because I really, really, really liked it, but I disagree with some of the creative choices. And part of that is because Inside Out is my number 2 favorite Pixar film of all time. It's easily in my top 5 animated films of all time, and it was my number 1 film of the entire 2010s decade. Like, I am so attached to the original film and how wonderfully it expressed emotion in visual terms, to the point where you can't help but not only fall in love with the characters inside Riley's head, but with Riley herself. So I didn't think a sequel was needed. I didn't think we needed new emotions because it just felt like marketing. And once we decided on that, we have Anxiety, who we now have to retcon into the series. And you didn't need a villain for these films. There are some takes and critiques that say that she's not a villain, but she does literal, bottom line villainous things. Like she runs an animation sweatshop. She kicks the core 5 out of Riley's head for disagreeing with her for all of like 5 seconds after she shows up. She's a villain. She's a sympathetic villain, but she's a villain all the same. And maybe there's a meta point to be made about having, this freakish, insecure orange interloper coming in and demanding fealty to whatever their plans are and laying waste to the world if you don't agree and causing panic attacks. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know. But once those decisions are made, once they go down this path, they handle it beautifully. Riley's transition into adolescence and the awkwardness of trying to fit in with a new group of friends, we've all been there. The climax where she literally has a panic attack. I went to the hospital for those. I know what those feel like. They nailed it. While most of the new emotions are barely cameos, like basically Ayo Edebiri as Envy is probably the only one who gets any significant screen time apart from Anxiety. They are still fun for what they are, especially June Squibb comes in for 2 quick blips as Nostalgia, which is a nice little dig at Disney's machine, to make Disney billions of dollars. So, and while Tony Hale is a great voice actor, he doesn't make up for Bill Hader not being there. But I do like that anger, disgust, and fear are more active characters this time. Like there's a whole lot more abstract concepts that are depicted in novel and profound ways. The quest to get back to Riley from wherever they're ejected to is compelling in the extreme. And there is something to be said about embracing the things that make you off in a way. Like that, the message of the first movie was embrace your loving darkness, embrace sadness as a part of growing up, and know that it's not a negative emotion, no matter how it might be presented. This is more about, as you grow, there's going to be quirks about you. There's going to be things that are a little bit weird and awkward and off-putting, and you need to embrace those too, and you need to learn to cope with it. Again, some of these things weren't needed, but once they did it right. And while it's not top tier Pixar, it's the best we've gotten in a while. And in a studio that has a kind of hit and miss record with sequels, like, this is much closer to Incredibles 2, Toy Story 2 than it is to Monsters University or Cars 2 or Finding Dory. So I was very pleased with it.
Eric, I understand you guys actually both saw the latest Alien incarnation. So tell us about Alien Romulus.
Well, I went to see Alien Romulus for my birthday. It was my birthday gift to myself. And I grew up with the series. My father and I watch them all together. And I've seen all of them. And we know, if I'm talking to the Alien fans, there are some that are not good. So going into this one, I had pretty much just baseline expectations, but I understood that it was going to be a direct sequel to the original 1979 Alien. So I thought that was promising. I sit down, I know it was co-written by Fede Alvarez and directed by him, who did the Evil Dead remake in 2013. So I knew it was going to have more of a horror lean. So I'm watching the film, and it's microcosmic. It's a very small group of people in a large space, but still, confined. There's a lot of confinement, which is the original formula. Take a couple people, confine them, put this scary thing in there with them. But as I'm watching the film, I note that there are elements of the prequels that are brought in. There are elements from Prometheus and Covenant that are brought into the film. And there are even redemptive arcs from the films that didn't work, like Resurrection. I feel like the third act of this one is like a redemptive act for Alien Resurrection. There are classic story beats that you have to have in an Alien film. You have to say, "Get away from her, you bitch." You have to have one of the synthetics run amok. You have to have a nail-biting tense scene in a corridor. This time they do it vertically, and like the tension was great. The performances were good. The aliens looked amazing. They held off showing them till the end. I felt it to be a very respectful and meaningful entry in this series of films.
Now, Bill, I understand you saw this as well.
I mean, I enjoyed it. Let me just put that right out there. I enjoyed it. It is a good movie. I don't think it's, superlative, but I still liked it. I still had fun watching it. And a lot of that to me was down to the production elements. The set design is off the charts. I absolutely love the way that Romulus Station is set up. I love the divided pathways of a Romulus and a Remus wing. That's a very nice meta reference there. Without spoiling anything, the nesting corridor, for lack of a better term, was a great reveal. The cinematography and the color schemes and the lighting were really just a feast for the eyes. Like, I was blown away by how it was basically shot like a puzzle box. Like, there was one really good scene where the camera comes down from what ends up being a horizontal corridor and then turns down a vertical one in one seamless motion. That's really good stuff. most of the visual effects, I was pretty impressed by, except for the final adversary, and like Eric said, you have to have a synthetic run amok. You didn't have to use AI to graft Ian Holmes' face onto one of them. That was in poor taste as far as I'm concerned. Again, well, same thing with putting Anya Taylor-Joy's face on her younger version in Furiosa. It's like, let's get away from this AI crap. We just had 2 strikes over it. Stop doing it. It's like, and especially with Furiosa, it's like she grows up into Charlize Theron, so you don't need a child version that looks like Anya Taylor-Joy, because she's still not going to look like Charlize Theron at the end. So stop doing that stuff. Bad. No, don't do it. But once you get past that and you kind of accept that this is more of a formulaic, by the numbers alien film that's just trying to be good, that's when you can really appreciate it. Like, yeah, there's things I can nitpick to death. Like the fact that Kaylee Spaney is the new Ripley because she's got top billing, not for any other reason. But I really like David Johnson's performance as Andy. Like the film kind of starts out with her being, her character's name is Rain, just be as on the nose as possible. But she's got this like replicant synthetic android adoptive brother that her dad reprogrammed, and that makes him a little bit dim-witted. So you combine the two of them and their desire to go to a more sunny agrarian world. It's like Of Mice and Men in space to a certain extent. But when we have to, reprogram Andy again to get through Romulus, David Johnson, who's a relatively new actor, like doesn't have very many credits, he turns it completely 180 and becomes this detached, cold, logical, borderline malevolent force, kind of like how Ash was in the original. So I really loved his performance. Like, most of the cast I could take or leave, but he absolutely knocked it out of the park. It should be a star-making role for him. So yeah, there's things that I didn't care for in the movie, but at the same time, it's by default the best one since Aliens. So, and like Eric said, they do make an effort to right the wrongs of the previous installment. So I can't fault it too much. You look at the 80% rating that it has on Rotten Tomatoes. If you look closer at the actual reviews, a lot of them are just basically 4 out of 5 critics saying, it's all right, which, okay, that skews the results for once. It's a bit of an outlier, but I'm okay with that.
It just makes me think this means they get to make more Alien movies, and I don't know that we need that.
I mean, it's a bit of a catch-22, because you can definitely see franchise fatigue setting in with a lot of these things, but at the same time, they're the only things making money. I mean, if you look at the box office for the year, 9 of the top 10 movies of the year so far for box office are sequels, and the 10th one is Quiet Place Day One, which I guess is a prequel. So everything is franchise right now. I don't agree with it. I don't like it, but that is the business reality of it. And because of that, the studios just cling closer and tighter to every IP they have, trying to, wring blood from a stone.
That's a nice way of saying it's your fault, people. Like, you keep going to see these things. They're going to keep making them. There is no way around it.
I mean, it's a self-perpetuating circle, because we keep watching them, and then they become the only option to watch.
We have one more movie to talk about. It's probably, is it this or Inside Out 2 that's the biggest movie of the summer right now, Bill, box office wise?
I mean, literally, they're 1 and 2. Inside Out has the top spot. Number 2 goes to Deadpool and Wolverine, and this should be the top line analysis for the studios when they see these box office numbers, because Inside Out 2 has nearly 650 million domestic. Deadpool and Wolverine has nearly 600 million domestic, and then it's a huge drop off to Despicable Me 4 in third place with 350 million. And Despicable Me 4 is the best one since the original, again, by default. But what they should think is like, oh no, it's not that sequels are making money, it's that good sequels are making money. Deadpool and Wolverine presenting the last movie anyone will care about in the MCU. We finally get Deadpool 3. We finally get the team up of him and Wolverine that we've always wanted. And it's just as ultra-violent, irreverent, fourth wall breaky as ever. You get tons of cameos, but ones that you would never expect. And that's where the fun is. It's like Ryan Reynolds is playing with the Marvel formula in a way that both satisfies Kevin Feige and his ilk, but also pokes as much fun at them as they can get away with. There are entire swaths of time devoted in this film to how Disney destroyed Fox and how the multiverse is BS, and you're just completely bungling the most valuable film property in history. Again, up until the line where Feige would intervene and put a stop to it. So, the story, who even cares? Deadpool's in a different timeline. His timeline is about to, disintegrate in like 2,000 years because the Wolverine that died at the end of Logan was like their anchor being, which makes no sense whatsoever, which is kind of the point. I mean, hell, you have Logan, which was made in 2014, but set in 2029, having a dead and decomposed Logan in 2018, in 2024, 5 years before it even happens. Deadpool made the joke in the first movie about how these timelines are so confusing. He intentionally makes it even more so, all to set up an opening sequence where he uses Wolverine's skeleton to murder a bunch of fools to the tune of bye, bye, bye. It's like, this is what fans have been waiting for since Endgame, really. You had your victory lap to get all self-serious and bring everything together. And since then, all we've really wanted is fun. This is a palate cleanser. It's catharsis. And it's done in a way where we can all kind of just get off the train now. Like, we have our ability to just laugh at this parade of absurdity with a super adorable ugly dog with its tongue hanging out its mouth, and a Blake Lively version of Deadpool that will make nerds swoon for years to come. And we get Wolverine in the yellow spandex that we always wanted. He even puts on the cowl. It was like, finally, just give us something to enjoy on a base level. If we want to think deeper into it, we can. If we don't, we don't have to. And also, we don't have homework. We don't have to watch 20 Disney Plus shows to know what the hell's going on. This is what you were supposed to do, Feige. Get back to doing it, or get off the proverbial pot.
Agree totally.
One of the things that we talked about, so Cameron Kitten and I did a summer preview episode. It seemed to me that they were looking at this film to be the panacea that was supposed to fix everything. I don't know if one movie can do that. I don't know if this movie in particular could do that. Does it do it?
I'll take that one. The beauty of Deadpool and Wolverine is that, no, it does not do that at all. It has the requisite Marvel post-credits scene, and that scene they use to set up absolutely nothing. This film is meant to celebrate what has come before, give ideas as to what can come after in terms of execution, not story, not, let's lay the groundwork for this obscure character to come out of, Secret Wars number 301. No, it's fun. It's what we've been asking for. It's a visual delight, an oral delight, cameo explosions. It's a great movie. I took my wife to see this movie. She does not like movies. She's not a movie person, but I was like, hey, I'm going with 7 of my closest friends. Do you want to go? She's like, yeah, sure. She went, she watched it. She laughed at a lot of the jokes. As we were leaving, she said to me, hey, are the other movies like that? are Deadpool 1 and 2 like that, where like he's all quippy and funny? And I said, yeah. She goes, maybe I'll watch those. That's what this movie is. It's not the Marvel Antidote. It's a good movie.
All right. On that happy note, we should wrap things up. So Eric, for people who want to find you, read your work, where can they find it?
I am on all of the socials as Eric M. McClanahan. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and you can also read some of my film criticism on No Rest for the Weekend podcast.com, as well as ain'titcool.com and cinemascholars.com.
And Bill, what about you?
You can find my work at actuallypaid.com as well as on Medium. And of course, I am on I guess now I'm an X-Man because I'm finally conceding that it's no longer called Twitter. You find me there and on YouTube at actually_paid.
All right, guys. That's it for us. And for all of you out there, thanks so much for taking this trip down the rabbit hole. For more of our content, including more of our movie reviews, visit the website, norestoftheweekendpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube, youtube.com/getbehindtherabbit. I'd like to thank my cohorts, Eric McClanahan and Bill Hammon. And for Behind the Rabbit Productions, I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
This is the BTRP Media Network.